Great. Right. So I'm an archivist at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I've been involved with SNAC for I guess about 8 or 9 years in various capacities as an editor, helping out with SNACSchool, the editorial and standards working group, and now also the enslaved description group. So I'm going to be talking with you all today about archival authority control. So So first, I thought we would go over our learning objectives for this module. We are going to define and explain authority control basics, explain the elements of SNAC authority records, and we will show how to do research to support archival authority records. So authority control, according to the SAA dictionary, is the process of establishing the preferred form of a heading, such as a proper name or subject, for use in a catalog, and ensuring that all records in the catalog use such headings. The forms of headings, both preferred and variant forms, are defined by a standard. Once established, the forms are recorded in an authority file for future reference to ensure consistency. Some well-known authority files include the Library of Congress Name Authority File, or LCNAF, and the Virtual International Authority File, known as VIAF. Authority work is the process of designating preferred names, and in some cases variant names for entities, corporate bodies, persons, and families, so that catalog users search under one form to ensure consistency. That said, authority files generally allow for searching by variant names, which then lead the user to the preferred name for searching. Let's talk about the base required information for a SNAC archival authority record. Each record contains the following core data elements: identity or name, description, that is biography or administrative history, and relationship links to both archival resources and to other entities in SNAC. Control data refers to the administrative data about the life history of the SNAC record itself and is stored in the SNAC audit trail. The sources or source citations are bibliographic citations presented as evidence for the information asserted in the SNAC record. At the heart of SNAC's mission is the linking of entities, one to archival resources and two to other entities in context. Here we have LaDonna Harris's SNAC record, and the resource relations and related entities found in SNAC are highlighted. Harris's SNAC record provides contextual links to original archival collections created by her or archival materials about her. It also contains contextual links to other related entities described in SNAC records. Note that here she is linked or related in context as a member of the Global Tomorrow Coalition and as a spouse of Fred Roy Harris, United States Senator. These contextualized relationship links are two main features that set SNAC authority records apart from traditional library authority records. Now let's talk about establishing or creating a name for a corporate body entity. We have a good deal to cover, and as we will see, some corporate body names have several components to consider. RDA defines a corporate body as a collective agent who is composed of persons who are organized for a common purpose or activity. So typical examples of corporate bodies are associations, institutions, business firms, nonprofit enterprises, governments, government agencies, projects and programs, religious bodies, and conferences. Events such as athletic contests, expeditions, fairs and festivals, and vessels, including ships and spacecraft, are also considered to be corporate bodies. Due to the nature of many corporate body names, they can be ambiguous or contain person name elements. It is often necessary to establish a corporate body name with additional qualifying elements in order to disambiguate the name. Here are several examples of corporate body headings, along with a breakdown of each of their component elements. We see the name for Boone Hall qualified with plantation, as well as a geographic qualifier. Boone Hall standing alone isn't sufficient to clearly explain the nature of the entity represented by the name. The John F. Kennedy example is similar. John F. Kennedy is the name of a person, but when established as the name of a naval vessel, additional information is warranted. SNAC has a policy outlining the classification of plantations, estates, and farms as corporate bodies. This is a departure from LCNAF policy, which classifies them as geographic names. The SNAC policy recognizes that plantations were more than a geographic location. Plantations as corporate entities were more than just the houses or landmarks, and that plantations were essentially family businesses. And establishing headings for them as corporate bodies recognizes that, and does so in such a way as to allow relationships between it and other entities, like those enslaved there and those who are enslaved people there, to be demonstrated. When constructing headings for these entities, they typically follow the pattern of a name, a type, and a geographic designation. Names for tribal nations, organizations, and communities are also corporate body names. Listed and linked from this slide are SNAC policy statements and supplemental guidance for working with Indigenous organization names. Now, this is a part of corporate body heading construction that can be very confusing. Under RDA rules, there are several criteria that you use to determine whether the name needs to be created directly or subordinately. The default is to record names in direct order unless the name itself includes a word that implies subordination, such as department of, division of, office of, or committee on. Basically, a name that is so general that creating it directly would be confusing or not helpful. When determining preferred and variance names forms for corporate body entities, look for those keywords: office of, department of, division, committee on, etc. If the name is something as general as Department of Public Works, it's too general to stand alone and therefore must be established subordinately to a higher corporate entity. A good example of this, as seen in the slide, is Department of Labor. Without a higher level or organization identified, in this case, a government department jurisdiction, the name Department of Labor is too vague to stand alone in an authority file. It must be designated subordinate under a higher body. On the other hand, when a name has no subordinate keywords, it gets established in direct order, as seen in our examples of the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library and the National Museum of the American Indian. Let's go through an example of a corporate body heading with the Institute of American Indian Arts. Starting with the finding aid is the traditional first place to go for a preferred name, and it's also the perfect hunting ground for variants. Here's part of the finding aid describing the Institute of American Indian Arts at the Brooklyn Museum, Libraries, and Archives. This will be the form of name used as the preferred form. This name is clear and does not need any additional qualifiers. In the finding aid, the institute is identified by other names, so these forms become variants: IAIA and Institute of American Indian Arts and Culture. A general rule for establishing the name of a corporate body entity is to use the name that the corporate body calls itself. When the name is not specific enough, add additional elements to further qualify or describe the entity and to distinguish it from other similarly named entities in the authority file. RDA rules allow one to derive a heading from any biographical or historical source or archival resources with information about the entity. For work in SNAC, editors commonly lift the entity name from a finding aid or other descriptions, but they can establish an entity name based on information found in a variety of sources, like wiki articles, the corporate body's official website, or organizational charts. Now here we see examples of different resources that could be consulted when establishing a preferred name, as well as variants for the Institute of American Indian Arts, the finding aid describing the records of the entity, Wikipedia, the organization's website, and the Library of Congress name authority file. Generally, we can establish a new entity in SNAC that matches and then builds upon the LCNAF authority record. However, this is not always possible when the name doesn't yet exist in the LCNAF. Using the example of the Field Projects Division, we determined that elements of the name of the specific unit of the Getty Conservation Institute imply subordination as it contains the word division. According to RDA rules, we establish Field Projects Division subordinately to the Getty Conservation Institute. So Record DIM, Project Records, 1994 to 2009, undated, is the finding aid title that warrants the new corporate body name, Getty Conservation Institute, period, Field Projects Division. Let's move on to persons. RDA defines a person as an agent who is an individual human being who lives or is assumed to have lived. Though RDA restricts the definition of a person, SNAC further defines persons to include persons named in sacred scriptures, saints, fictitious and legendary persons, and non-human entities, like Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and Kermit the Frog. Please note patterns with person names: surname, comma, forename, comma, date element. In some cases, when name forms are vague or underdocumented, there are conventions to qualify names. For trans and gender diverse people, SNAC follows the metadata best practices for trans and gender diverse resources that were created by the Trans Metadata Collective in 2022. We want to note that editors should be explicit about transphobia in collections, items, and metadata, including finding aids. It's important to read biographical information for inappropriate language. Editing biographical information taken from sources is fine. Respect the wishes of those described regarding the use of any former names in name authority records. If you do not know the author's wishes, follow these principles. 1. Someone's full body of work should be accessible using their current name. 2. Former names that they have previously published under should be used as little as possible and kept private. 3. Former names that the author has not published under should not be included. A person's current name will be the authorized form. Any former names will be, if appropriate, alternative forms. Establishing person names starts generally by referencing a finding aid for one of the entity's archival collections. As with corporate body entities, the finding aid is the traditional source for the preferred name and variants. Be mindful that variants, as well as other biographical information, can come from a variety of sources. We'll explore those further as we build a heading for Indigenous artist Jane Quick-to-See Smith. SNAC documents its preference for the fullest form of a name when available. In this example, we base our choice of preferred name on the finding aid for Smith's oral history interview in the Archives of American Art. When establishing a complex name, consult the preference for fuller names in SNAC policy and the SNAC editing cheat sheet for person names. Again, as with corporate bodies, you will find yourself researching your entity through the course of your SNAC record, create, and edit work, and that will involve visiting a variety of web sources. You will at some point record the sources you visited in order to capture the evidence you found to support the details you've asserted in your SNAC record. This process will crystallize when we discuss sources in depth in the next module. But for now, keep those browser tabs open to the sources you've consulted along the way. Finally, we have family entities. It's worth mentioning that family names, by their very nature, can be very vague, especially when considering common family names. For this reason, family name headings must always include qualifying elements, like a geographic designation or the name of a prominent family member. Please note the general pattern for family names: the surname, a qualifier, usually the family qualifier, and then a geographic place name or the name of a prominent family member. Like other examples we've discussed, starting with the finding aid is where most SNAC records begin. Unlike notable names, there's nothing for the Eastmans in Wikipedia and no names in the Library of Congress Name Authority file. That's okay. We have patterns to follow when forming the name and then other sources for individuals' information to help us nail down the heading. Evidence from both the finding aid and from Find a Grave memorials lead us to information that we can use to construct the heading. During our research, we found no evidence to support variant name forms. And we want to note that the geographic place qualifier follows the pattern of city/town, state abbreviation, common in the LC patterned headings. If you're unsure of a proper form for your location, you can search the LC authority file at authorities.loc.gov or id.loc.gov. So names in general, but more specifically family names, have special considerations and might require more attention to make informative and useful. Make sure to reach out to your SNACSchool reviewer or your fellow SNAC editors to devise the most useful heading possible. Your best source for distinguishing name elements will likely result from a finding aid or other descriptive record. So I know that is super dense, and I really apologize, but that will, I think, become more clear as we learn to actually construct your headings and fill out your records. So,
Thank you, Jody. That's a great lead in. That makes it easier for me.